The Chains of Kildoria. The 3 moons of Kildoria cast their pale blue glow over the barren landscapes of the once fertile world. From his observation tower in the capital city of Timur, Timunitu the Tyrant gazed upon his domain with cold, unblinking eyes. His 6-fingered hands clutched the railing as he drew a deep breath through his gill-like nostrils, savoring the scent of fear that permeated his kingdom. Another dissenter captured. "My lord," reported General Zoltar, his hulking frame casting a long shadow across the polished obsidian floor. "We found him distributing unauthorized communication devices in the southern district." Timunitu's lipless mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among his species. "Bring him to the interrogation chamber. I wish to attend personally." In the bowels of the Palace of Subjugation, Vexar hung from energy restraints, his gray-green skin discolored with bruises and lacerations. Once a respected scientist in Kildoria's prestigious Academy of Celestial Studies, he was now branded a traitor for daring to speak against Timunitu's brutal reign. "You disappoint me, Vexar," Timunitu's voice echoed in the chamber as he entered. "You could have continued your research under my patronage, bringing glory to Kildoria. Instead, you chose to poison minds against me." Vexar lifted his head, his 3 eyes focusing with difficulty on the tyrant. "There is no glory in slavery, Timunitu. Our people were meant to explore the stars, not cower beneath your boot." The tyrant laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. "Exploration. For what purpose? I have given our people everything they need. Order, purpose, direction. The chaos of freedom you preach would destroy us." "The only destruction I see is yours," Vexar replied, his voice steady despite his pain. "Our population dwindles, our resources are depleted, our culture dies. All to feed your insatiable ego." Timunitu's face hardened. He gestured to the chief inquisitor, who stepped forward with an array of torture implements. "Perhaps pain will bring clarity to your thoughts. Tell me the names of your co-conspirators, and your suffering will be brief." Hours later, Vexar lay semi-conscious in his cell. Despite the sophisticated torture techniques, he had revealed nothing of value. His thoughts drifted to his daughter, Lyra, now leading what remained of the resistance from their hidden base in the crystalline caves beneath the southern mountains. In those caves, Lyra paced anxiously before the assembled resistance leaders. At 26 cycles, she was young by Keldorian standards, but necessity had thrust her into leadership after her father's capture. "Our latest intelligence confirms that Vexar is alive, but we lack the resources for a rescue operation," she announced grimly. "Timunitu has tripled the palace guards and implemented new security protocols." Elder Kraz, once the head of Keldoria's diplomatic corps before Timunitu disbanded it, spoke up. "Our numbers dwindle each day. Without external help, our resistance is doomed." "External help," scoffed Merrick, the Resistance's military strategist. "We've been cut off from interstellar communication for 15 cycles. Timunitu's orbital jammers ensure no signals leave our system." Lyra's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Not entirely true. My father's last project before his capture, he was modifying an ancient deep space transmitter using pre-jammer technology. It's incomplete, but with the right adjustments. Even if we could send a message, who would receive it?" asked Kraz. "Our nearest allies in the Proxima system fell to Timunitu's forces years ago." Lyra activated a holographic display showing a star chart. "Not the Proxima system. Here." She pointed to a small, unassuming star. "This system contains a planet called Earth. My father intercepted transmissions from them years ago. They're not part of any known alliance, but they appear technologically advanced and potentially sympathetic." "Humans," Kraz murmured, recognition dawning. "Yes, I remember the reports from before the blackout. A curious species, physically unimpressive but remarkably adaptable and resourceful. They were just beginning interstellar exploration when Timunitu seized power." Lyra nodded. "If we can complete my father's transmitter and send a focused message directly to Earth, bypassing the jammers, we might find allies. The plan was desperate, but desperation was all they had left. For weeks, the Resistance worked tirelessly to complete Vexor's transmitter, scavenging parts from abandoned technology and risking dangerous raids on Timunitu's outposts for crucial components. Finally, on the night when all three of Keldoria's moons aligned, a rare occurrence that created interference in Timunitu's jamming network, they were ready. Lyra recorded a message, a plea for help that included detailed information about Keldoria's situation, Timunitu's defenses, and the Resistance's desperate circumstances. As the transmitter powered up, drawing energy from the natural crystalline formations in the cave, the Resistance members gathered in tense silence. "Will they understand our language?" Merrick asked quietly. "The transmitter includes a universal translation matrix," Lyra explained. "If their technology is advanced enough to receive our signal, they'll understand our message." The transmitter hummed with increasing intensity, the crystals around them resonating in sympathy. Then, with a blinding flash of energy, the message was sent, hurtling through space toward a distant blue planet whose inhabitants had no idea they were about to be drawn into an alien conflict. As the energy discharge faded, Lyra stared up at the rocky ceiling of their hidden base, imagining her message traveling through the cold void of space. "Now we wait," she whispered, "and hope that Earth responds." What she couldn't know was that her message would reach Earth, and that humans would respond in a way that neither she nor Timunitu could possibly anticipate, with precision, audacity, and a single strike that would change Keldoria forever. Meanwhile, in his palace, Timunitu received reports of an unusual energy surge from the southern mountains. Probably just interference from the lunar alignment, his chief scientist assured him. The rebels lacked the resources for any significant operation. Timunitu nodded, but a flicker of unease crossed his features. He increased patrols around the palace and ordered additional torture sessions for Vexor, sensing that something had changed. But even with all his paranoia and precautions, he couldn't imagine what was coming. In his cell, Vexor sensed it too, a subtle shift in the air, a feeling that somewhere in the universe, something had changed. Despite his pain, he smiled for the first time in months. He didn't know how or when, but somehow he felt certain that Timunitu's days were numbered. The human response. Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless before the holographic display in the Strategic Command Center of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters. The message from Keldoria played again, alien features speaking in a synthesized human voice, conveying desperation and hope. "That's the 5th time you've watched it," noted Admiral Cheng, joining her. "Trying to find something we missed. Trying to decide if it's legitimate," Elena replied. "This could be a trap, a test, or a genuine plea for help. Either way, it's the first direct contact we've had with non-human intelligence." The discovery of the message had sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. For decades, humanity had searched the stars for signs of intelligent life, sending out signals and listening patiently. To receive such a direct and detailed communication, a plea for military intervention, no less, was unprecedented. "The Security Council is assembling in an hour," Cheng informed her. "As our foremost expert on theoretical alien engagement scenarios, your input will be crucial." Elena nodded absently, her mind racing through possibilities. At 42, she had spent her entire career preparing for a moment that most thought would never come. Her team had developed protocols, strategies, and technologies for potential alien contact, but theory was one thing, reality quite another. "If this is genuine," she said finally, "we're talking about intervening in the internal politics of an alien civilization we know almost nothing about." "Precisely why this decision can't be made lightly," Cheng agreed. "But if we do nothing, and this Timunitu is everything they claim." In the United Earth Security Council chamber, representatives from every region of Earth debated the Keldorian message. Opinions were sharply divided. "We have no business involving ourselves in alien conflicts," argued the African Union representative. "Our priority must be protecting Earth." But this could be a valuable first contact opportunity, countered the representative from the Pacific Alliance. A chance to gain allies and knowledge. Or it could be drawing us into a trap, noted the Eurasian Federation spokesperson. We know nothing about these Keldorians beyond this message. As the debate continued, Elena was called to present her assessment. She stepped to the podium, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Council members, I've analyzed the Keldorian message extensively, she began. Their technology shows signs of being more advanced than ours in some areas, particularly energy manipulation and transmission. However, the message itself bears all the hallmarks of genuine desperation: improvised equipment, urgent transmission patterns, and detailed but hastily compiled intelligence. She paused, looking around the chamber. If this is a trap, it's an extraordinarily subtle one. More likely, this is exactly what it appears to be: a dying resistance movement making a last-ditch appeal to an unknown potential ally. "And what would you recommend, Commander?" asked the Secretary General. Elena took a deep breath. "A limited precision intervention. We have technology that could potentially neutralize this tyrant without committing to full-scale military involvement. Our recent advancements in kinetic orbital strike capabilities would allow us to deliver a single decisive blow with minimal risk to our personnel." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Secretary General raised a hand for silence. "You're suggesting assassination," he said plainly. "I'm suggesting giving these people the one thing they can't achieve themselves: removing a dictator who appears to possess advanced personal security that makes internal resistance impossible," Elena corrected. "One strike, precisely targeted, based on the detailed palace schematics provided in their message." After hours of heated debate, the Council reached a decision. Earth would respond, not with full military intervention, but with the precision strike Elena had proposed. If successful, they would establish diplomatic contact with the post-Tumunitu Keldorian government. If not, Earth would reevaluate its position. Preparations began immediately. Elena was given command of the mission, designated Operation Kingslayer. The UES Artemis, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel, was outfitted with a specially designed kinetic projectile, a tungsten rod enhanced with experimental technology to penetrate energy shields, guided by the most sophisticated targeting systems humanity had developed. The small crew was selected for their expertise and discretion. Lieutenant Maya Wong, navigation specialist; Dr. Karim Nassar, xenobiologist; Technical Sergeant Jackson Reed, weapons systems expert; and Captain Carlos Vega, the ship's commander. Together with Elena, they would make humanity's first deliberate contact with an alien civilization. As they prepared for departure, Elena met with Dr. Nassar in the ship's laboratory. "Nervous?" she asked, finding him studying the Keldorian message again. "Curious," he corrected. "We're about to meet beings who evolved on another planet, under different conditions. Everything I've trained for has led to this moment. If all goes well, you'll have plenty of time to study them afterward," Elena noted. "But first, we need to succeed with the strike." Karim nodded. "I've been analyzing their physiology from the video. Their bone structure appears less dense than ours, suggesting they evolved in a lower gravity environment. Their respiratory system implies an atmosphere richer in certain gases than Earth's." "Anything that could affect our mission?" Elena asked. "Nothing obvious, but I'm more concerned about the psychological impact of our intervention. We're about to change the course of their civilization. Are we ready for that responsibility?" Elena had been asking herself the same question. "Maybe not," she admitted. "But from what we've seen, the alternative is watching a civilization destroy itself under a tyrant's boot. Sometimes the right choice is the only choice, ready or not." The journey to Keldoria would take 3 weeks using Earth's most advanced propulsion systems. During that time, the crew prepared meticulously, studying the intelligence provided by the Keldorian resistance and developing contingency plans for every imaginable scenario. As they approached the Keldorian system, the Artemis engaged its stealth systems, becoming virtually undetectable to conventional sensors. The final approach was tense as they navigated past Timunitu's orbital defense platforms. Impressive technology, but designed to detect ships approaching through conventional space lanes, not a vessel using Earth's unconventional stealth technology. Entering high orbit, announced Lieutenant Wang. Palace location identified based on provided coordinates. Confirming target, Sergeant Reed added, his fingers dancing over the weapons console. Energy shield detected, consistent with the Resistance intelligence. The projectile's penetration systems are calibrated and ready. Elena stood behind them, watching the displays. On the main screen, Keldoria rotated slowly, a world of blues and purples rather than Earth's blues and greens, but recognizably a living planet. Somewhere down there, Lyra and her Resistance fighters were waiting, unaware that help had arrived. Final authorization required, Captain Vega announced, turning to Elena. She hesitated only briefly, thinking of all the decisions that had led to this moment. Humanity's first deliberate act of intervention in an alien civilization. For better or worse, history would remember this. Strike authorized, she said firmly. Execute Operation Cainslayer. One strike for freedom. The tungsten rod, released from the Artemis, plummeted toward Keldoria's surface. No larger than a human arm, it contained Earth's most advanced guidance and shield penetration technology. As it entered the atmosphere, it accelerated to hypersonic speed, becoming a streak of light visible to those who happened to be looking at the night sky. In Timunitu's palace, the Tyrant was holding court, receiving tributes from subjugated provincial governors. His security systems, designed to detect conventional weapons and assassination attempts, registered nothing as the projectile approached. The first warning came only seconds before impact, a brief alarm from the shield monitoring system, followed immediately by catastrophic failure as the rod pierced through what was supposed to be impenetrable protection. The impact was precisely targeted, striking Timunitu directly on his throne. The kinetic energy released was the equivalent of a small tactical nuclear weapon, but focused into an area of just a few meters. Where the Tyrant had sat moments before, there was now only a smoking crater. The throne room's ornate decorations, symbols of Timunitu's ego and excess, were obliterated along with their master. In the confusion that followed, no one noticed a small probe ejected from the projectile moments before impact. It embedded itself in the palace wall, activating sophisticated surveillance equipment that would allow the Artemis crew to monitor the aftermath. Across Keldoria, news of Timunitu's death spread like wildfire. Initial confusion gave way to celebration as the population realized their oppressor was truly gone. In the crystalline caves of the southern mountains, Lyra received the news with stunned disbelief. "It cannot be true," she whispered to Elder Kraz. "After all these years, just like that." "Your message," Kraz realized. The humans must have responded. Within hours, Timunitu's top generals and administrators began fighting among themselves for power. Without their leader's iron control, the regime began to fracture along old rivalries and grudges. The Resistance, seizing the opportunity, broadcast a message to all Keldorians. "Citizens of Keldoria, the Tyrant is dead. This is not the time for chaos or vengeance, but for rebuilding. The Keldorian Restoration Council calls for calm and unity as we reclaim our world and our future." The message, delivered by Lyra, included a plea for the peaceful surrender of Timunitu's forces and a promise of amnesty for all but the most brutal of the regime's officers. To her surprise, many accepted, recognizing that without Timunitu, their cause was lost. In orbit, the crew of the Artemis watched these developments with fascination and concern. "They're organizing remarkably quickly," noted Dr. Nassar, monitoring communications from the surface. "The Resistance must have been preparing for this possibility for years. The question is, do we make contact now or wait until they've stabilized?" Captain Vega asked. Elena considered. "We'll send a message to Lyra directly. Offer our assistance in rebuilding. but make it clear we're not here to control or dictate. Earth extends friendship, not another form of domination. When Lyra received the humans' message, she was in the midst of organizing the liberation of political prisoners, including her father. The communication, delivered directly to her personal device, startled her so much she nearly dropped it. "Greetings from Earth," it began. "We received your plea for assistance and have responded. Timunitu's reign is ended. We stand ready to help Keldoria rebuild, should you wish it. We come as friends, not conquerors." The message included coordinates for a meeting point and a proposed time, after Keldoria had begun to stabilize. It was signed simply, Commander Elena Reyes, United Earth Defense Force. When Vexor was finally freed from his cell, he was a shadow of his former self. Months of torture had left his body broken, but his mind remained sharp. Upon hearing of the humans' intervention, he insisted on being part of the delegation that would meet them. "I studied their transmissions for years," he told Lyra as he recovered in a medical facility. "Their history is filled with both great cruelty and astonishing compassion. That they chose to help us speaks well of them, but we must approach this relationship with clear eyes." 2 weeks after Timunitu's death, as a provisional government took shape, the human delegation descended to the surface in a small shuttle. The meeting place was symbolic. The great observatory that Timunitu had closed and partially destroyed early in his reign, now being restored as a symbol of Keldoria's scientific revival. When Elena stepped onto Keldorian soil, becoming the first human to set foot on an alien world, she felt both the weight of history and an unexpected lightness. Keldoria's gravity was indeed lower than Earth's, just as Karim had predicted. The air had a sweet, almost spicy quality that their environmental suits filtered but couldn't completely mask. The Keldorian delegation awaited them. Lyra, Vexor supported by medical assistants, Elder Kraz, and several others representing different factions of the new government. The physical differences between the species were striking but not insurmountable. Keldorians were taller and more slender than humans, with gray-green skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful compared to the more abrupt human motions. "On behalf of Earth, I bring greetings," Elena said, her words translated by their advanced systems. "We come in peace and friendship." Lyra stepped forward. "On behalf of Keldoria, I thank you for your response to our plea. Your intervention has freed our world from generations of tyranny." What followed was the first of many diplomatic exchanges between the two worlds. The humans shared their technology for sustainable energy and environmental restoration, critical for a world damaged by Timunitu's industrial excesses. The Keldorians, in turn, offered knowledge of faster-than-light communication and their unique crystalline energy storage systems. More important than the technological exchange was the cultural one. Humans and Keldorians discovered they shared fundamental values: curiosity, compassion, a desire for freedom, despite evolving on worlds light years apart. As the provisional government stabilized into a permanent democratic system, Vexor was appointed Minister of Interstellar Relations, with Lyra as his deputy. Elder Kraz became the first elected Chancellor of the new Keldorian Commonwealth, emphasizing reconciliation and healing. 1 year after the strike that killed Timunitu, a memorial was unveiled in Timur's central plaza, not to the Tyrant, but to commemorate both the Keldorians who had died resisting his rule and the unprecedented intervention from Earth that had finally ended it. The monument depicted a Keldorian and a human hand joining together, supporting a crystalline sphere representing their shared future. At the dedication ceremony, Vexor, now recovered enough to stand unaided, addressed the assembled crowd and the human delegation. "For 15 cycles, we fought against seemingly insurmountable odds," he began. "We lost friends, family, hopes, and nearly our future. When we sent our desperate message to the stars, few of us truly believed help would come. Yet from a world we knew only through intercepted transmissions came a response that changed everything." He turned to Elena and the human representatives. "With one strike, You freed us from chains we could not break ourselves. But more important than that act of liberation has been what followed, not conquest or exploitation, but partnership and respect. Two civilizations, born under different stars, finding common cause in the belief that all beings deserve freedom and dignity. Elena, listening to the translation, felt both pride and humility. Earth's intervention had been a gamble, a decision made with limited information that could have gone catastrophically wrong. That it had succeeded beyond their expectations was partly skill, partly fortunate timing, and partly the remarkable resilience of the Keldorians themselves. We could not have known when we sent that single projectile how profoundly it would change both our worlds, she replied when invited to speak. What began as a response to a plea for help has become the foundation for a friendship between our peoples that I believe will endure for generations. As night fell on Keldoria, the three moons rose once again over a transformed world. In the great observatory, restored to its former glory, human and Keldorian scientists worked side by side, mapping the stars they might one day explore together. In the capital, the new government worked to heal the wounds of Timunitu's regime, building institutions designed to prevent the rise of future tyrants. And on Earth, humanity adjusted to the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, and that their first significant act of interstellar intervention had been one of liberation rather than conquest. It set a precedent that would guide human policy as they encountered other civilizations in the years to come.